All right, hello everyone. Welcome back. Sunday's Speedrunner Spotlight. We are past episode 100. Yippee. I've been doing this way
Yippee.
too long. But speaking of people who have been doing things a long time, hi. Welcome to the show.
Hello, hello. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yes, welcome to the podcast where we talk speedrunning for hours on end, and I do this every week way too long. So, well, that's fine. Here's to another 100. We start now. And it's fitting since this is the first episode I'm recording post GDQ, and you kind of helped end things, so
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
it all works out. So I guess I'm sure most people here know, but for the YouTube and all that, kind of introduce yourself and summarize what you do.
Yeah, so a quick summary. I am Oatsngoats. I've been streaming since 2013, and I mainly speedrun Super Metroid. My initial passion and enjoyment was actually like FPS, but I did start speedrunning Super Metroid mainly, and that's kind of what I'm doing still to this day. So
Definitely a popular game. Very like one of the best speedruns out there as well. At least that's the collective opinion. So
yeah, it's for like 2D, like obviously there's different realms of speedrunning. Even within like 2D games, there's different genres, right? So for Metroidvanias and everything, it is quite technical, and it is definitely from a lot of the other games that I've played and heard opinions of other people. It's definitely one of the more technical and popular 2D Metroidvanias. So
it really like kind of stemmed that genre. I mean, Metroid's in the name, right? And
yeah,
they were kind of putting their foot in the water with the first couple games. Super Metroid's obviously like, oh, they did it.
yeah. With the original Metroid, it was a little bit rough, but somehow that did spawn a whole genre. So good on Nestroid, but the game is, ugh, yeah, it's a little rough.
Yeah, the speedrun's cool though. It's
Yeah,
not.
speedrun's neat.
Yeah, I mean, I always think like more iffy games usually turn out to be good speedruns. So
Generally, yeah, it's just like a lot of Nest games are rough, and Nestroid is also susceptible to that. So
understood, but yeah, they figured out what they were doing eventually.
yeah,
That's all that matters. Anyway, I guess we can start diving in to the meat of the episode. I'll start with the how you got started with this journey in speedrunning.
Ooh, okay. So, like I said, I basically, man, where do I even begin with how I got started? I didn't know that speedrunning was a thing, and this was probably in like 2011, 2012. I loved Super Metroid growing up, and I basically was bored. I had already like graduated high school and everything, and I wanted to play games. And I was like, well, I loved Super Metroid. Let's just play through some old retro games. And then I started playing it. I'm like, oh man, I'm still really good at this game. I played it a lot as a kid. I still remember a lot of the glitches from like the old forums and stuff. And I feel like I'm a good Super Metroid player. And so I started looking up basically what's the world record, what's the fastest time completed. I probably stumbled upon like Speed Demo Archive. Is that right?
Speed
I mean,
Demos
that's like the
Archive, yeah.
old. Yeah. I probably stumbled upon that, and after some digging, so I had no idea what I was even looking for. I came across like an in-game time, I believe, but I didn't know it was an in-game time. So I was like, okay, so that's like whatever time that is, like a 55 or no, it was the opposite actually. That's what it was. I thought it was in-game time, right?
Mm.
Yeah, but because in-game time in Super Metroid is lower.
Yes.
So, anyways, lower than the RTA. But, anyways, I thought I was like super good because I was matching what I saw almost. I was like, oh man, I've just played through this like 10 times, and I'm like kind of getting close to this time. And it turns out I was looking at my in-game time, which is lower than the RTA. So then I was still like miles off, and I was like, oh, once I found that out, I was like, no way, like these guys are that good. And then I stumbled upon, at the time it was Garrison. Garrison had I think it was like a 4630 in what was considered like the old route, or he just got that time or something, and I think it was a 32-minute in-game time. And basically, once I found his stream, I that kind of opened up everything. I started becoming a part of the community. I started practicing all the time on emulator, like Z-SNES of
Oh
all
yes.
emulators, terrible.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's what I practiced on at the time with a big old Logitech controller, and then big LCD TV too. It's like a Vizio that I brought to my first apartment. It was just terrible, just a massive amount of input delay and all that fun stuff. But anyways, when I started streaming on Twitch, 2013, I then yeah, I just started speedrunning Super Metroid mainly, and then yeah, that's basically just how I got started. I was hooked on the game. Then once I learned about streaming, I kind of loved streaming, even though I was streaming to zero viewers. But still, I loved everything about it, and that's how I got started.
So 2013.
That's my Twitch account was made. I think it was like January 31st, 2013. But I was like, I think it was, yeah, I graduated in 2011. So then 2012, I started messing around with Super Metroid and like learning about the runs. And then I hadn't created a Twitch account until 2013. So I already like was kind of playing Super Metroid a little bit beforehand, but that's when I really started um, actually speedrunning the game. So
The official introduction. So coming
yes,
up on the 12-year anniversary.
yeah, yeah, time flies.
Yeah, I'm learning that as time goes on.
Yeah,
So, um, sounds like a interesting setup. So that whole setup is how you were doing runs.
yeah. So my setup was bad.
Mm-hmm.
It was an old PC that my brother had. Okay, well, first of all, let's back it up a little bit. I didn't know about Twitch, and I know this is maybe a little bit confusing of when I was like watching Garrison to when I knew about Twitch or like how to create a Twitch account or anything. I can't remember if I was watching like YouTube videos of Garrison or if I was already like in the Twitch community, but I didn't like have an account yet. But anyways, I created an account to stream Call of Duty Black Ops 2 from my Xbox. And I was like, I don't even know where this is going. Like, where's the chat? Like, where do I see any of this stuff? And then basically I learned I have to like go to my dashboard on Twitch and yeah, it was Twitch at that point. I can't remember when Justin TV was a thing, but yeah, it was Twitch. But yeah, so then when I figured that out, I was like, okay, so I got to like actually put work into this. I can't just like click go live after creating an Xbox Twitch account. And then yeah, that's basically it. But yeah, my setup anyways. My setup was a PC that my brother had, like a really old PC. He just upgraded to something probably also terrible, but he gave me his old PC that was like collecting dust in the closet, and it would always crash. So I taped a box fan to the side of it with it open, and I had to run the box fan max speed, or else the PC would just always crash. And I grew up in a small town in Minnesota, and we didn't have fast internet. It was just awful. So I was streaming at, I think we stream now at what, like 8,000 if we turn the streaming service cap off, something like that. I was streaming at like 200 or
Is
400.
this the bit
It,
rate?
yeah, the bit rate.
Okay. Yeah,
It
I do
was,
6,000. So.
it was terrible. But that's all I could do, or else I would drop frames. And
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't have the fan running full speed, my computer would crash. I downgraded from the big Vizio to like a small, terrible LCD Vizio something. So I was playing on emulator with a Logitech controller, speedrunning with my box fan max speed computer on like 200 to 400 kbps bitrate. I had a microphone that I had like taped up because it was broken, and I put a sock over it as a pop filter. So I was using a crusty tube sock over a mic, and it was rough. It was a really rough start in 2013, but I made it work somehow. I was working a full time job at the time, and I would stream from like midnight to 5 in the morning,
My
and
God.
yeah, that's pretty much how I got started. And then just you get a viewer trickle in here, viewer trickle in there, make friends, and within those friends, just branch out and just made more friends. And I was just the thing with streaming. I was especially back then. It wasn't like you could turn streaming into a job. Like there were some people that were super popular, and you're like, oh man, I want to, or I never thought this, but you knew that you could be successful with streaming, but it wasn't like it is now, not even close. So I was streaming just because I was having so much fun, and like I was making friends, and I thought about nothing but Super Metroid speedruns and like how I can improve. I became like addicted to it. It was just a blast. So yeah, essentially that's my setup at the start, and that's kind of how I got started.
So, in terms of learning the game and improving, uh, how long did it take you to like become top level, or were you just focused on any percent at the start and just doing that
Yeah.
for a long time?
Yeah, I mean, I was still kind of like naive, and categories, the only one I knew was probably any percent. So I did get an okay time. I got so at the time, I think the world record was still a 46, or it was being lowered more and more. Maybe a high 45 at the time, but I did end up getting a sub 50, which was a fairly respectable time, especially back then. With that whole setup, the terrible setup with the I don't even know 8 frames of input delay,
Oh my
Logitech
God.
LCD setup that I had. So then I ended up buying a Super Nintendo and figuring out the whole what do we used to have I don't know if
The
you used to stream
Dazzle?
back. Yeah, the Dazzle.
Oh,
That's it.
yes, of course.
Yeah, Dazzle, Game Saver, the
Mm-hmm.
old school stuff. So then I got all that, and I started doing console streaming and or runs, and that's when I started to improve. I improved fairly fast after that to I think I got a 4653, and then I think the world record was maybe like a high 44 at the time. So I was like closing the gap fairly quickly. But then I started playing other games. Kind of went off and did like Mega Man X stuff, and I was trying to like build up my stream and my audience and my personality around those times as well, like what people would kind of expect to see, and just like build up a fun atmosphere, and actually kind of do not just speed runs but stream, entertain. And or after I did some of that, there was the new route, which is what we run now with Fantoon first, if you're familiar. So it's before it was KPDR, and now it's which is Craig Fantoon, Dragon Ridley, and then in 2014, Behemoth released a world record video of the new route, which is 11 years old now, and that is Fantoon Ridley Craig Dragon. So it just eliminates a ton of backtracking. It was faster, so I went back to that. When I went back to that, I definitely dedicated a lot of my effort and time into like trying to be the best with Super Metroid now again. Like I was like, okay, I want to get back to Super Metroid. I did other stuff for a bit, and I think it was 2015. I want to say or 20, yeah, no, it was 2015, I think. I got my first world record. So, and then at that point as well, when I was grinding for record times, I also got Twitch partner. So yeah, it was all coming together. And once I got Twitch partner, it was like, oh wow, like I can actually maybe make this work into something other than just entertainment for me and trying to entertain others. Um, so yeah, I I shouldn't forget like all these huge milestones of mine, but I do. I try to look forward, and I definitely forget some of like the like what year was that again, and how long have I been partner? Oh yeah, but yeah, it's certainly been a while.
That means the 10-year anniversary of Partners coming up.
I think we already had it.
Oh, was it early in
Yeah,
the
I want to
year?
say I think we did. I don't know. Caffeine is in your chat. He might actually know. Um, but yeah, no, it's been a wild ride. So
Mhm,
oh okay, yeah, I'll have to take a look. But yeah, I think it's probably been 10 years now or coming up on it. Yeah.
mhm. So, do you remember what time your first record was?
I believe it was 2015. If I look at my YouTube real quick, I
Yeah.
should be able to find the first. Well, it would be around that time. I think it was 2015. I got I want to say it was a 4210.
It was already 42
Um,
by then? Wow.
yes, yeah. So it was because the new route was like so much faster.
Do you know, like,
So we were
approximately how much faster it was?
at that time we assumed 2 minutes,
Holy.
and then now I want to say, what is the assumption that we have? It's like maybe like a minute and a half or something, maybe
I
like
mean, that's
a minute
huge, so.
40. It is huge, but yeah, like
Wow.
we didn't know exactly at the time, but now we've really refined both routes to where we kind of have a better understanding. Oh, was it 4210 in 2016? Alex says, "Thank you, thank you."
Mm.
Getting my years mixed up. So I was grinding in 2015, and I think that's roughly around probably that first world record 4210 was when I got partner. Yeah, that sounds about right. And then yeah, after that, I continued to grind it down further and further. And then Zost. Zost was like my biggest competitor at the time, right? So, and he's still playing the game as well, and he's one of the legends of the game. He we were basically just trying to get like sub 42 first. He ended up getting the first sub 42, and it was yeah, so a 4158 is what he got. And then shortly thereafter, I ended up getting a 4156. And then that was kind of also like another milestone for my stream, in terms of kind of growing the stream, right? Um, so yeah, and then that record held for quite some time. And I think that was also 2016, but yeah.
Just crazy how much time a new route can save.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So yeah, I'm looking at yeah, the 4156 was 8 years ago now. So yeah. So yeah, October 19th, 2016 is the 4156 that I got. So
Mhm. And the primary focus in these couple of years were just grinding any percent down.
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So before I got partnered, so when I got the world record in October of 2016, I I was already partnered and everything, and yeah, before that, I was actually working on becoming partner, but also I was still working,
Mhm.
right? So when I got the sub 41, I had decided to try to make full time streaming a thing, which was a dumb idea looking back, but I somehow made it work because especially back then, there was no Twitch Primes, there was no ad revenue, there was no gifted subs, there were no bits. It was just raw difficulty. It was really tough. But yeah, not to go off on a tangent on like streaming growth, but yeah, it was certainly a dumb idea back then, but I made it work. So
It's interesting thinking, yeah, back then they had nothing other than subs, right? That's all it was.
yeah, and then PayPal. You really relied on
Oh,
like
yeah,
PayPal.
okay. Yeah, fair
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, but that was rough still because it's like so many clicks away to like support someone. Now it's like really integrated into the. Oh, I want to support you. It's like 2 clicks and it's done. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I did not find out about Twitch until 2017, so it's interesting to hear what it was like back then because that's before what I knew it as.
Yeah, it was kind of wild back then. I remember before I knew what Twitch was a thing, my older roommate, I think it was 2011, end of 2011, 2012, start of 2012. He was watching Siglimic. I believe it was Siglimic.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, you know Mario 64, right?" And he would just have him up all the time. He's like, "These guys are crazy," and I would like watch it with him a little bit, and I had no clue. So, but it was just the game feed, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I remember anything other than just Mario on the screen. And that was kind of the way every speedrunner was. They were just grinding just the game. So it was less personality and people going, this is a really fun niche hobby. Here's the game, and here's me playing it really fast. Hope you enjoy. So I don't know. It was definitely a different atmosphere, and it was I don't know. It's kind of fun. It was obviously smaller as well back then because Twitch blew up, especially around the pandemic. But even before then, it was still quite a bit different from when I started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy just how much things changed because you think about it, it's like, oh, I don't recall all that much happening recently, but the timeline between then and now, it's like, oh, a lot happened actually. It
Yeah,
just all
for sure.
blurs together.
It does. Yeah.
All right, so where in the timeline is like the sub 42 era? Is that diving into 2017 now?
Um. Yeah. So the sub 42 era was So the end of 2016 is when I got that, and then that held for I think probably a year. There is a
Oh.
wiki on this as well of like um of all of the records when they were beaten, the timelines of everything. So if you give me just a second, let me see
Sure.
here. So yeah. Okay, here we go. Yep, so yeah, 4210 was March of 2016, and then um let's see here. So after I got the 4156 in October, it took about a year for that to be beaten. And then I was doing like random things. I was working more on like my streaming aspect at that point because I had such a intense grind to get to that point. So I started. I believe I was still like doing a lot of Super Metroid and everything, but like different categories and just trying to be entertaining and build my stream and all of that. So in that time period, from 2016 to wow, it's a while. It was basically 2019, 2020 ish. Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, 2000. The end of 2016 to 2020 was um, basically me doing other things. And Zost and Behemoth were basically the only two running and grinding the main category of the game. And they grinded it down from My record was a 41.56 all the way down to uh, a 40.46. So it was like, wow, how in the world did these guys grind this down? It was like a 2, 3 year period, but it was still like in that gap of time, it was insane. But
Mm-hmm.
within that gap, I was, like I said, doing other things, trying to play other games and like more. I think I was even playing like more PUBG and stuff, like kind of riding that train and dabbling in other speed runs here and there as well, and just working on the entertainment aspect of my stream. So
It's interesting how that record progression goes because like an 80% run can record can last like a year, but then in like 2 to 3 years it gets pushed a minute. It's so like all over the
yeah,
place.
and if I count, it's I think it was 20 or 21 times it was beaten within that 3 year span by Zost and Behemoth. Just sometimes it'd be like Zost, Zost, Behemoth, Behemoth, Behemoth,
Hmm.
Zost, Behemoth, and they would just trade constantly. So yeah, it was kind of wild in between that time. They were really pushing the category to see how far it could go. So
Wow.
yeah,
And I know in 2017 that's when the first summoning salt video would have come out where you had the record but at the time of that video's release.
yes, yeah, I was the person at the end of the video there. Wow, that was 2017.
Hmm.
Jeez. So 8 years. Um, but yeah, yep. I wouldn't be surprised if there's any updates at some point from Summoning Salt on a lot of these old videos because, like I said, time flies, and I can't believe it's already that long ago that that video was made. But yes, it makes sense because I think the end of the video was me with the 41.56. So
Hmm. Yeah, that's what I remember. So
yeah,
again, I'm remembering from 8 years ago, but I
yeah,
believe that's how things went. But yeah, it's crazy again how long a record can last and how short it can last. It's like either or. There's no like middle. Oh, here's a normal length of time.
yeah. It's kind of funny because the further and further away a record gets, the harder it is psychologically for people to pursue.
Mm.
It's almost like the what is it, Bannister, sub 4 minute mile. It was deemed to be impossible. They know he could do it, and it was just so difficult. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get the sub 4 minute mile. And then it was beaten. And then all of a sudden, everyone is getting a sub 4 minute mile in that
Hmm.
space in the running scene.
In the speed
And
running with a space.
oh yeah,
Yes.
in the actual running scene, yeah.
Hmm.
But it is no different, honestly. Obviously, one is a physical activity, and but if you're in that space, you're already you have the physique and the conditioning for that. But it's essentially the same thing in terms of like our psychology with it. So once something is beaten, once the 41.56 was beaten, it kind of opened that floodgate for them to just keep going back and forth and beating and beating and beating because it's possible. It's, oh look, they did it. Of course now I can do it. Or also a way to think about it, and a lot of the times that's how I think about it is I have to perform this well now. Like I no longer can say, it's hard or it's really tough and I can't do this. I have, if I want to be a top level player or anything, I have to perform this well. So then it also kind of changes something in you. So it's funny how that works.
Hmm. So in that time frame, you just didn't touch any percent at all. But you said you like. I know the focus was more on just like stream growth, but there was speedrunning intertwined with that. I assume like other categories and such.
Yes, I was doing other categories. I was playing, like I said, like PUBG and like a lot of like battle royales and just having fun with that. Um, yeah, I don't think I was like pursuing any crazy good times in any other category, but I was still playing them because I like speedrunning the game. Um, I know that I went back to any percent briefly, and I lowered my 4156 to, I believe it was a 4146. At the time, the world record was already I think it was like a 4056 or a 4046. So I lowered it just a little bit, and I was like, man, that's probably in like 2019, maybe 2020. I said I just don't want to. I'm never gonna run any percent again. There's no way I can compete. I don't feel like grinding that hard in the category ever again. So yes, in terms of speed running, I would play games like Contra 3. What else? Like Mega Man X 1, 2, and 3 occasionally. I did play Ocarina of Time. I did speed ran that for a little bit, like that 100%. What else? Just a bunch of random little things. But Super Metroid was kind of, in terms of grinding for records, on the back burner, and me just trying to branch out, work on the stream growth was in the forefront. So,
So what other like categories are there in Super Metroid that you would have played?
yep. So low percent ice was one that I played. So after the record, I guess that's about when I got. So I had record in low percent ice from January 2017 to well, let's see. That was the first record. Then March of 2017, I had like a 51-13, and then same thing with that. Like Zoe started beating it shortly thereafter. Then another runner named Overfiend beat it, and then Zost ended with his time 48-25 in 2020. So that record's held for a while, but that is like another category that I played. The funny part about that is any percent and low percent ice have the same intro. So what we could do is, like, if you were good at any percent, you could just kind of play low percent ice. Or some of us would even, if the intro wasn't as good for any percent, we would just switch and play low percent ice and try to get a record in that. So yeah, that was another category that I liked. 100%, I did play a bit, but I've even to this day, I've never grinded 100% enough. So maybe that will be something fun to do. But I have decent times in it, but I've never pushed for record in that category. Yeah, and then like other random categories. There's one that we kind of made up, me and a buddy, a while ago, Sweet Numb, which was well, it looks like we didn't make it up, but we kind of started running it mainly. It was 100% map completion. And that's a record that I held in 2017 as well, the end of 2017, into 2018 as well. I had another record in that. But yeah, there's a bunch of just funny random categories like that. Any percent all bosses was another category. I think this is the one that me and Sweet Numb kind of started playing. If I can even find it on this wiki, I don't think it's on here, but yeah, that's another category. I don't even know. Super Metroid has so many categories, just like a lot of games. If you look at the category list or the category extensions, it's just overwhelming. It's like, why are these even categories? Like, why
Why
is this?
not?
Why is this a? Well, I mean, some of the categories are open every door, or get grabbed by every Samus eater, the vile plumes. You know, we're just kind of making stuff up at this point. But to each their own. Not my cup of tea. I prefer more of the actual main categories, because on top of enjoying the game, I'm also quite competitive, so that also gives me drive. But yeah,
Got it.
yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I wish I had more of a history with SM in between 2016 and 2020, but like I said, I was burnt out, and that's something, as you've probably heard every other runner that you've interviewed on here talk
Mm-hmm.
about burnout, and I was certainly very burnt out at that point. So that's kind of why I also took that huge break. So,
Got it. And for the uninitiated, I guess, what does low percent ice mean?
oh yeah, so low percent ice. In Super Metroid, you can beat the game. Now there's like quite a few different ways, but the main two categories are 14% ice and 14% speed. 14% is just 14 items. It's 1% per item in the game. So you can finish the game with a lower percentage, but we kind of categorize those as glitched, and they kind of fall into a weird gray zone because there is also, we want to like keep the low percent the way it's been. So, anyways, it's low percent ice is you grab ice beam, charge, no speed booster, both suits, and then the minimum amount of ammo and everything that you need to beat the game. So it's basically a really difficult challenge run. The world record in that currently is, I think, a 48, though it's still fairly fast. And then there's low percent speed. Low percent speed is kind of the problem child of the two low percent categories. It's awful. The reason it's awful is because it requires, at the end of the game, with Ice Beam, you kill the Metroids in Torian. You freeze the Metroids, and then you super them. With low percent speed, you have 5 power bombs. It takes 3 power bombs to kill the Metroids. And when you kill Metroids with only 1 power bomb, or with power bombs, you only get 1 drop as opposed to, I want to say it's 5, or 4 or 5 drops. So, and the power bomb drop rate is extremely low. So you get to the end of the game, and you're hoping for the craziest RNG to get power bomb drops from Metroids that only give you a fraction, a fifth of the drops that you normally get. It's just a terrible category. There's fun tricks within it, but also on top of that, you need to fire. So in the 80% category, we shoot Mother Brain 60 times. So there's 60 charge shots. In low percent ice, it's 200.
Oh.
In low percent speed, it's 300.
Oh.
So you are sitting there forever, dodging everything you can, nearly dying. It's kind of like a fun fight when you're doing it, but it's also what, a 6-7 minute fight watching. So it is quite boring. It's probably something I'll never run again. But yes, the low percent ice is a fun category, and that does have a lot more runners than low percent speed. But yeah, that's the low percent for Super Metroid. There are other low percent things like low percent X ice. I can't even remember what that run is. It ice booster, ice boots, speed boots, chargeless. There's these kind of fall into like the gray zone. They're a little bit weird. And like chargeless, for example, is faster than low percent ice, but we don't. It's not really on the same par as low. It's kind of just a different thing entirely. But
Yeah, I mean, plenty of games I know have like 50 category extensions, and half of them don't mean anything. But it's funny.
yeah,
So.
and there's like one runner, but
True.
if as long as people are having fun, because that is the main thing with
Mm-hmm.
speedrunning. It shouldn't be taken too seriously. It's just like any hobby. Like if you're gonna play an instrument, like why take it too seriously? It should be a passion first.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So, during that hiatus from main stuff, were there any like notable runs you tried out worth diving into, or was it just more like whatever felt good to do in the moment?
In terms of other games,
Yeah,
or
other games?
Yeah, so well, there is Metroid Prime as well. I did forget about that.
Hmm.
Metroid Prime is a fun run and a very. It might not look like crazy watching, but I can assure you it is a very difficult, very technical run with a lot going on. So that actually, I never did it too much. Metroid Prime to me is kind of like I'm burnt out on Super Metroid. I'm gonna speedrun something still technical, and then I'll like go back to Metroid Prime for a month, PB barely, and then I'll go back to like Super Metroid or something else. So it's always kind of just been that really fun. It scratches the itch that I have for like a technical speed run, but at the same time, I don't take it that seriously. But yes, so Metroid Prime was a game that I put a little bit more time into, I guess. Metroid Fusion, a tiny bit more time. Whenever I create save states or like a practice method with a game, then I consider that now I'm slightly getting into it, and I finally did that with Metroid Fusion during the last 2-3 weeks that I played it. Um, yeah, I started actually using practice methods and got a decent time in the game. Um, but then again, I was missing Super Metroid because it is really just different entirely. It's like on a different level of like technicality in comparison to these other like Metroid games or Metroidvanias or anything. So I always kind of fall back to that. I suppose it's like someone that plays Melee that might delve into something else, and then they always yearn for the Melee technicality that
Hmm.
they're good at and they know they can do. So
Yeah, I understand. So,
yeah.
when you're trying to like dive into a run, is it usually a Metroid game?
No, I
Hmm.
I mean I do love the franchise, but it doesn't have to necessarily be Metroid. But I am not only am I like the Metroid runner now, even though there's other large streamers that play Metroid, but I there's just not anything that really catches my eye or attention. Um, yeah, I can't think of anything that I've played that's not Metroid that's been like, oh wow, I have to like pursue this game or I don't know. Yeah, maybe like in terms of interest and like addiction, like Vampire Survivors is addicting, right? But I'm not gonna speedrun that. But yeah, yeah, that's pretty much that. I don't I might be like biased towards Metroid because that's what I started with, but I don't necessarily care.
Hmm.
So
It just works out that way, I guess.
it does work out that way. And like I said, with Metroid Prime being really technical, Metroid Fusion's a pretty decent technical game. It's a little more clunky, um, and you are like limited with Metroid Fusion compared to like Prime or Super Metroid. But it is still technical in its own rights. But yeah,
Got it. But yeah, we're not going to see you dive into like Nestroid anytime soon.
I have
Oh,
done
you
some
have?
Nestroid
Okay.
runs. Yeah, because I do like or I have done in the past like a 2D Metroid thing, to where I play Nestroid, Zero Mission, Super Metroid, Metroid 2, Metroid
Oh.
Fusion. So I've done like all the games, and I've like speed ran all of those games. But the only two that I've really got into is mainly Super Metroid, and then way behind, but still more than the others, Metroid Fusion.
Okay. Got it. So, when did those like challenge multi-game things come in? Is that part of the hiatus, or was that a more recent endeavor?
Um, it's been quite a while since I've done one of those, but I can probably see my first one that I did. I don't know if I uploaded them actually. Um,
Yeah, was this pre or post Dread? Because that would count, right?
way pre-Dread.
Oh, okay. So yeah, kind of during the hiatus times.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I mean it's probably like years ago or more that I started doing like the 2D Metroid marathons. Um, but yes, yeah, Dread is an entirely different topic. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I'm sure we'll
because
get
it's a
into
little
that
more
later,
new. But
but yeah.
yeah, but
So,
yes, yes.
didn't pour too much time into the other games, but I'm just trying to remember how many there are. Because there's the
Um,
main five.
yes, the
Um,
main five, and then of course you have like the Federation Force and Metroid Pinball and the really good ones that no one talked about, but like Hunters. But um, those are the main five that I decided to do, and that was obviously pre-Dread, and I
so
have
instead of
considered,
Dreaded Zero Mission.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I've even considered like dropping Nestroid and just doing Zero Mission, but
And keeping
Nestroid
Metroid
sucks.
2 Game Boy.
Well, yeah, Nestroid is terrible, and people want to see it. So I'm like, you know what? Fine. We'll keep it in there. Keep it 5. Keep it, kind of nice, rounded. But
And then yeah, there's the Samus Returns. That's Metroid 2, right? The remake.
yep, I actually never finished uh, Samus Returns, but um, some people liked it. I did not like it, so I never finished the game. But
Fair enough.
yeah.
So does that kind of cover the whole hiatus era, I guess? Because then we hit like pandemic era, right?
Yeah, I'd say the hiatus. There's probably more in there um,
Just
that
nothing
I'm
too
missing.
noteworthy.
Nothing that I can think of that's extremely noteworthy.
Fair enough.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in that time too, I can't remember if that was pre or post pandemic. It was probably post pandemic, but um, it was like a big ROM hacking scene in the game and um, stuff like that. There's like a mode called Arcade, and that was after pandemic. But
Ah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm. So yeah, the whole ROM hacking thing comes in around that time.
I'd say that's a little post pandemic. But
Yeah.
yeah, so the hiatus era was basically me just playing like FPS and um, random games, not really much speed running. I would still speed run because well, I was burnt out a lot of the time too, but I would still speed run sometimes because I know a lot of people would want to see that.
Hmm.
And I never, so the thing that would keep me sane is I never really grinded for records. When I would do that, I would just like maintain that itch that I had.
Got it.
I would scratch that itch rather
Yep.
for myself and for people that would want to still see speedruns since they probably came in while I was speedrunning. And some people, I guess, the way I would see it is they have maybe an expectation, and I would still kind of try to fill that in. So
Hmm. All right. So I guess we can get into the grand return then. Is that what we should call it?
the grand return. So yeah, that was man. This is I guess when I started doing the well, to back it up a little bit too, before the grand return, I'm looking at the GDQ runs that I've done, and there were randomizers in there as well.
Hmm.
So I will say that's obviously every game has a randomizer.
Oh yeah.
Um, but with Super Metroid, a Link to the Past and Super Metroid are kind of intertwined. They both have great randomizers. A Link to the Past, the vanilla randomizer of that is incredible. Everyone knows about that randomizer.
Hmm.
But I remember the run that I did in 2018 with Andy at GDQX, and that was A Link to the Past, Super Metroid randomizer that we did. So I was playing that kind of stuff as well, just
Hmm.
to probably maintain my SM skills and kind of branch out. So,
Hmm.
and then we get into the 2020 era, end of 2019 to 2020, that kind of stuff. I was starting to go into ROM hacks at that point. So I had um, a run at GDQ 2020, right before the pandemic started. I think it was in like March when that was kind of really taking off
Mm-hmm.
of 2020. That
Yep.
was in January of 2020, and I think that was the last live event for a few years.
Yep.
Was that finale that I did at that event. Um, so I started playing really difficult ROM hacks. Super Metroid Impossible is basically it's the vanilla map. So the map that you remember playing as a kid, and there's just like a lot of really difficult things added here and there. It's kind of like it's just a challenge. I wouldn't call it like a Kaizo, but it's just a really difficult challenge.
Not for the casual.
Yeah, yeah. When it was created, it was in 2006. The ROM hack was created
Holy crap.
by what is the name? It lost. I mean, maybe someone, maybe Caffeine remembers, or wasn't Leorin, no. But anyways, it was deemed to be kind of TAS only. That was in
Impossible,
2006.
maybe?
Yeah, impossible, right?
Mm.
They probably assumed that it could be done, but it was, it was like one of those things. It probably won't be. It was impossible, and so I ran that at, even though I was like, ugh, I was iffy about it because it was really tough, and to do that on stage, I was like quite nervous. A ROM hack hasn't been played yet at that point, so I submitted it, and to my surprise, it actually got accepted. It was, I want to say Saturn, yeah. Saturn. And yeah, it somehow got accepted. So I was like, shoot, I gotta. It does extremely well. It was a really, really big run that everyone loved. In terms of stream growth, I think that run is definitely, if I have a stream growth going like this, kind of steadily up. You have some downs, you have some ups, you have maybe some spikes. Super Metroid Impossible just shot me up, and then I continued to like grow at a more steady rate upwards. So yeah, the run was really well received, and I continued to do ROM hacks after that point. So I had like a little series on YouTube for ROM hacks, and I was playing through terrible ROM hacks that people made. There's hundreds and hundreds that people have made, and I was playing challenge ones, terrible ones, good ones, and then there was another ROM hack that someone named Leorin made possible. It's called Kaizo,
Mm.
and that Kaizo was actually impossible with the normal one. It was made in 2010. It was made possible. I decided to do that one, and once again, I was like, well, GDQ is opening up again. It's already been a couple years in that time. I had done a little bit of 100% runs from 2020 to 2022, but mainly ROM hacks, more just like fun content revolving around Super Metroid. So then I was like, well, let's submit Kaizo. I think the first time I played the game, I did I have I had over 1,000 deaths, I think. So we had like a death counter and everything, and it was awful. It was so difficult. You're dying constantly. It's like, man, this is so stupid. So let's try to do this in under 50 deaths. So then I start running the game essentially, Kaizo, and then I beat my PB. I get under 50 deaths, under 40, 30, 20, 10, and then I grinded until I beat it deathless. Which from to start with like over 1,000 deaths, whatever it was, to like deathless was no way I could have done that when I first beat the game. But after probably many months of grinding Kaizo, I did finally hit the deathless, and that was then submitted to SGDQ 2022. So yeah, in between that time, I'm still doing Kaizo. And the funny part is, when a little bit before I submitted Kaizo, I really didn't think that they would accept this one now. I know Impossible did well, but I was like, man, there's no way they're now going to accept Kaizo Metroid. Once they watch the run, it's like it's a lot of back and forth, and the possibility to just die is so high and just kind of get into a death loop and whatever. There was an any percent tournament, and that's when I started kind of having the itch to do any percent again. Well, at least to do the tournament. And the tournament ended up being a huge success in terms of players entered, and there was like a massive prize pool. It was insane. There was a lot of generosity from a certain individual and many, but particularly one individual that made the prize pool. I don't even know what it was. It was just a massive amount of money, and we're like, wow, okay. So we're all, and this was like we were already in the tournament before we knew there was money.
Mhm.
So it's not like we're, oh, I gotta win this tournament now. I need to make $5,000 and get third, you know. Um, but anyways, so I was playing that, and then I was like, I'm actually kind of enjoying any percent again. This is fun. Maybe this is something that I actually want to uh, grind again. Um, it's been quite a while, so maybe it's time and do the tournament. I'm starting to kind of grind down. I think I got third in the tournament because I was still kind of getting into the game again, the category, and I ended up submitting Kaizo, and then it got accepted. So then I had to like full time Kaizo again, which was kind of disappointing. But I put any percent on the back burner, and I started doing Kaizo again. Um, it was well received. People liked it, but right after GDQ 2022, I started doing any percent again, and this is when I like started going pretty hard on the category. Um, I try to change because you've speedran. Everyone that you've had on this show has probably told you kind of hit a brick wall. There are what's the word for it? You just hit walls, and psychological or however you want to see it, to where you can't really progress, and it becomes really really challenging. And that I hit so many walls prior to when was it, like 2017, that I had to like break past when I had like the 4156. And then even like when I would kind of go back to it in between 2026, 2027 into 2020, I would just kind of like I PB'd and then I would just hit a wall again, and I would keep doing like my just random fun stuff. And then when you hit those walls, you burn out as well, and that's like the biggest problem with anything is burnout. But I wanted to change how I play the game. I like stepped back for enough years to go, all right, what I was doing before was like kind of working, but it is probably no longer going to work. So I like changed up my practice methods. I started running just to like have like better cognitive clarity, and like working out consistently, and having like a kind of like a stricter practice schedule with SM. And I started to see like insane results, like fairly quick. Like anything, I was still kind of hitting walls here and there, but it got to the point to where like I was starting to love any percent again. I was like satisfied with myself and happy and content, and I was making positive changes in my life, and that kind of reflected into like my hobbies and you know uh, my any percent runs. And I might be getting ahead of myself here. Tell me to stop, but
You're fine.
okay. And then yeah, so that kind of it just like lit us, a spark or you know lit a fire underneath me to push for a record, which hadn't been beaten for a very very long time. Let me see here. Yeah, it was. To scroll up. Yeah, so it was August of 2020, and then all the way. There's kind of a weird period here because Zost was playing. He beat his time by like a fraction of a second. So if we forget that fraction of a second, it was from 2020. It was almost exactly 3 years after when I got the world record again. So 3 years after Behemoth and Zost were done with their really big grind, after I was like doing other random stuff, to where then I, after a good year and a half of really dedicated hard grinding, beat it. Yeah, with the 40:36. So it was essentially a 10-second record at the time. So
I didn't realize
yeah,
how long
and
that Zost run lasted.
yeah, that was probably one of the longer standing records like ever. And it is funny because he did beat it. So a little over 2 years after his 40:46, he got a 40:45.999 something.
Mm.
So like I said, it was just a tiny amount. So if we ignore that, then yeah, it was like 3 years. But if we don't, then it was, what is that, like 8 months, 9 months, in between that. But yeah, essentially 3 years that record held, because it was a Super Metroid is daunting, and it was like I said before, the longer the record is like getting away from other people, it becomes such a psychological challenge to pursue. Um, I feel like there is kind of a tipping point after a certain period of time, because then people get away from the reality of how difficult it is. They go, "Oh, that's how old? We've all gotten better. Let's try it." Then they realize how difficult it is. Um, but yeah, it was certainly a tough challenge. I approached it with a very healthy mindset, and I'm sure you'll ask about that or get into that. But my mindset was, I gave myself goals. Like I wasn't really grinding for record. I promised myself if I burnt out that I would quit. I don't want to be attached. I don't want to attach my self worth to any time that I get. I am I am I am other than just my runs. I am a person. You know what I mean? Like as speedrunners, or if you're good at anything, we attach our self worth to that thing we're really good at. So I wanted to try to be healthy and separate myself from that. And luckily, I did get this record right before I was pretty much going to burn out. So it ended up working out.
So, do you know, like the date? It's been a
Yes.
while now.
Yeah, August 4th, 2023. I thought it was. It might
Wow,
have been
it's lasted that long. Ooh.
something. Yeah, August 4th. I had my fiance made me something that's all broken, but yeah, it was very nice of her. But yeah, August 4th. Yep.
And that still stands right now, as of recording.
Yes. Yes. So
Wow.
if we make it to, I saw Drewski in your chat earlier. Zenny is another insane runner. He's super good at the game. There's Behemoth that's running again. They're close. Zenny's super close. Drewski's super close. I'd be surprised. Like this record is held for quite a while. Like if it holds for over a year, it's kind of shocking to me. And it'll be 2 years in August. Um, if we make it to August, that I would be like, wow, that's actually kind of insane. It lasted that long. But yeah, we'll see. I do assume Drewski or Zenny will beat it soon. And then there's not much time left really to push out of this category, but there'll always be time. The game is a never-ending skill ceiling, so there's always something. But it's just the lower and lower it goes, the lower and lower our motivation is to try to beat that. It's exponentially harder. So
Do you have an idea of what the current kind of cap is? Obviously, it's not set in stone, but like,
yeah, so realistically, if someone were to get like a 40, let's just throw out a 40-18. That if Drewski runs the game tomorrow and gets a 40-18, it's probably safe to say that that record will stand for a very long time, like 3 to 5 years. Even if there's people playing the game, I think that's kind of like the realistic limit. Most of our sum of bests in this category is like mine was a 39.55, I think.
wow.
So we're all within like minutes, a minute or less of our collective best splits over the course of years. Now, the funny part about this is we have done theory tasks and just played decently, just spliced together like good rooms, and we can get a sub 39.
What?
But that's not going to happen. It's the game is too the skill ceiling is just so high, but the realistic chance of us getting to that skill ceiling is astronomically low. It just won't happen. But that's what makes this game fun. Is it's there. Like I think I did a theory task that could have been better, and it was like a 39-30. It was like it was decent. It was all like realistic strats that you could easily do in a run. People have done theory tasks with like much more difficult strats that you can do in runs, but it's like you're a little crazy. But even that theory task could be improved, and that was like a 38-53. So it's just wild. The game has so much left, but also at the same time, it feels like it's got nothing at all, because it's just so daunting.
It's very interesting because a lot of games you kind of have an understanding, or they get so optimized, like you know where the cutoff point is, but it seems
Yeah. Yeah, it's not so like static. It's not like Mario, which where they're within like a frame now, right? Or a
well
couple
18,
frames.
but yeah,
It's insane. Yeah, they're within frames, and they know the actual theoretical limit. With this, it's we don't even know. Like
yeah.
theory tasks that we thought were like unbeatable 5 years ago by a player, we could beat that with another theory task easily. And then in another 5 years, these theory tasks that we have, we're just going to be better players. We're going to be thinking of different strats. We're going to beat that again. It's just never ending with the game. And obviously, this is not a very good comparison because tasks are a little wild. But if you were to tasks and not theory tasks, for the viewers, a theory task is like what we play. So I would play on my TV. I would just record it, and I would splice it all together. So it's like what I'm playing. A task would be like slowed down, perfect execution, frame by frame, making sure everything is as close to. It's just as close
Not
to the limit.
human played inputs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No human can do that. It's close to perfection, but even though tassers still beat tassers in this game. So, the if you were to task this game, not human viable, that 3853 is probably like a 34.
Oh my god.
And it's like the same game, like no glitches, not it's insane. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm still running the game. It's like a never-ending pursuit of perfection, but I know that like it's so
It
if you
will
if you
forever
don't
have something to offer.
yes,
So
exactly. There's always something to give. Even when you think you've hit the end, there's always more to push out of the game. So
that's good because I'm so used to Mario 1 where like the cutoff point will probably be hit someday and then there's just nothing after that.
you're gonna have
Rip.
in 10 years a lot of tied runs, but that's
Well,
also
we'll see
insane
about
in and
that.
of itself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still no easy feat to tie the task in that game. I don't even know. People seem to think it'll happen soon. I really don't know because that requires that will require a lot of time that I don't know if anyone wants to go through that mental strain. But
Yeah, yeah.
someday, yeah, probably.
The closer you get to that limit, the further away it seems
Hmm.
because it is just
With every
it.
frame now, the difficulty becomes exponential.
Yeah, so with this, I always tell people the grind from 4159 to 4059 in any percent was harder than the grind from starting the speed run to 4259, if
Hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that was a harder grind, or 4159 even for that. The 4159 to 4059 was harder than everything else. And that's 1 minute. And everything else before that was 15, 20, 30 minutes, you
Hmm.
know? And then the grind from 4059 to 4036, I feel like was more difficult than the previous. And now we're talking that's even less. That's less than half of the amount of time,
Hmm.
you know? So it just becomes exponentially harder the further you go down. So now like if I grind and try to get 10 seconds off, that's probably harder than the everything leading up to it, because it's just there's not a lot left to give.
Hmm.
So,
So speedrunning goes.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
All right, so I guess what have you been doing in terms of speedrunning from that record until current day?
Um this is so after the record, shortly thereafter Dread came out.
Hmm.
Right? Yeah, it's already been
I
2 years. When
wouldn't
did
know.
when did Dread come out? I think so. I think I was
I
playing.
feel like it's been a couple of years, but I
Yeah, it's
wouldn't
been a
know.
couple of years. Wait, no, Metroid Dread came out in 2021. What?
Oh, really?
Oh my goodness gracious. Where has anything been? So back up a couple of years, I guess, to
I
Dread.
guess. Jeez.
So I guess yeah, after the success of the GDQ run and everything, if you want to talk about Dread right now,
Sure.
we kind of
Yep.
skipped past that. Dread obviously is like the newest Metroid game. Played that a ton when it came out, and speedran the game quite a bit for probably like 8 months and something like that. Had some records in it. Still, some of those times still hold up quite well, even to this day. But yeah, that was a really fun experience. Metroid Dread is a great speedrun as well. It's a lot more friendly to get into. Yeah, just the movement and everything in the game is good if you've ever played it. It's Dread is a great game. I really am happy with how they did it. I was kind of nervous after Samus Returns or whatever, or Return of Samus. I can't remember. Um, I was kind of nervous because I think it was the same creators, right? Mercury Steam. But obviously there was like limitations on the DS. And what they did with Dread was like, wow, it's just completely different than what I expected. And yeah, great game. I had a ton of fun with it. Ran it a ton. Just like any new game, it had its own controversies when it came out, and we, a lot of arguing about what should be done and this and that. But overall, it was a fun experience, and that took up a good amount of my time from when the game came out to when I stopped, started running Kaizo, started running any percent. So yeah, that's kind of how the timeline works. I ran Dread for 4, 5, 6, 7 months, somewhere in that range. Was doing Kaizo stuff, starting to do the 80% tournament, and then yep. And then I think you asked from the record until now. So yeah, no Dread. That was years before. What have I been doing even? Jeez, Power Wash Simulator. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I did play that a lot last year. That was
No,
good
I
fun.
love that game. I'll be real.
Yeah.
Satisfying.
Yeah. It's just I've just been kind of chilling, and there's like I said, there's ROM hacks of the game. One was called Arcade. So basically, how it works is there's one game mode to where it's timed, and the doors are all randomized. So you go through a door, it shoots you out some random location, and you have to react quick enough. And you try to like increase the number of rooms that you see. Every time you get like this many certain number of points, if you kill an enemy or find a secret or kill a boss or something, it increases your time. So then you just try to run through as quick as possible. Every like 10 rooms, it increases the difficulty and speed of enemies. I was having so much fun with that and played that to the ground. And then after that, we started doing something called map randos. And map randomizer is like a whole insane thing in and of itself. It's incredible that people actually got that working. But if you watched the GDQ finale of this year, 2025, just last week, we did a map rando race. It completely scrambles the map into zones. So just like the vanilla game, there's zones, and it turns it into a completely functional map. So there's like a ton of like machine learning that went into it. It took like 6 months to get one working map. And now like we can just spit them out, and there's like it's awesome how it's done. So yeah, basically that has took up a lot of my time. Like the last 8, 9, 10 months now. I don't know, just way too many map randos. But at this point, especially after GDQ, it's time to move on. So I am, in terms of speedrunning, I am looking at relearning Metroid Dread stuff, and possibly 100% Super Metroid. Maybe to pursue that a little bit. So we'll see. Yeah.
All right, so that's kind of the basic timeline of events. Sounds like.
Yeah, pretty much in condensed into an hour and a half. Yeah.
What about blindfolded?
Oh, geez. So I did a blindfolded Super Metroid run. There is an actual player that has a decent time. What is it, like an hour and 50 minutes? Someone in the chat might know, but
Jeez.
that's like with strats and actual audio cues. It's been mapped out, so they know the exact amount of steps. And I just went into it literally blind, without any. I just wanted to try to recall the knowledge that I have of the game over the years, and it took me 28 hours. I don't even know.
Jeez.
It
In one
was
sitting?
bad. No, in a
Okay.
couple sittings, but
Phew.
it was rough. Yeah, and going into it with no strats, no nothing. I can't even remember what half the rooms. Like I know what the rooms look like, but when you're blindfolded, you need to know exactly what every room looks like, exactly the amount of tiles there are in between every space, and the exact location of every enemy. And that's something that I didn't know. but I knew it well enough to beat it, I guess, in 28 hours, so, or whatever it was.
That's kind of crazy because I feel like if you get lost in a blindfolded run, there's just nothing you can do. But
Yeah, there's really nothing you can do. You can just hope for the best, find a save station.
mm.
I think, yeah, one room took me like 4 hours because there is no audio cues that you can gauge. You know, you can't hear anything
Mm-hmm.
in certain rooms. Like there's no indication, and you have to like climb floating platforms up an entire tower. You know,
Yeah.
and then how do you know when you're at the top? It's awful. So yeah,
Yeah, just a little hard. Um,
I did get blind CWJ. Yeah, yeah.
I guess we could dive more into the GDQ history because we,
Yep.
we briefly mentioned it, but we haven't talked about some of like the first early runs and everything. So, do you remember what your first GDQ run was?
Yeah. So I have my cheat sheet up here because it's been a
Perfect.
long time. But yeah, the first run was in 2015 SGDQ against oops. Let me let me get
Please.
rid of that. Get out of here. I'm sure you can see that as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Um um 2015 it was with David Clemens, myself, Zost and Stravaris. David and Stravaris, some really good old school runners. But yeah, that was my first race. I did end up dying. I've died to Fantoon a couple times in these races. Um, Fantoon is like notoriously difficult at the start of any percent in the new route. So yeah, it was kind of a bummer that was like the first experience. I had commentated, I think in GDQ 2014 is what it was.
Oh, that was like the
Comment
crazy one, right? Where it was like a second between first and second or something.
I think that was the one before me. I didn't go to that one. I think I went to
Oh,
the one
okay.
after. So maybe I went to the AGDQ 2015 might have been my first, and then commentated for a 100% run
Okay. I see.
with a runner named Epically Epic.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
um, and so let's see here. So yeah, 2015 SGDQ was my first. So summer of that year. And then after that, it was with my roommate named Sweetnum, another really good runner. We did a two-player, one controller. We were living together at the time, so we could practice. I think he was on the D-pad, I was on the buttons. That was fun. That was a good time. That was AGDQ 2016, so 6 months after. Then in that year, again, there was another any percent race where I believe I died again. It was
Consistency.
myself, Sweetnum, Zost, Behemoth. Or no, 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 no. No, I did die, but it was to Mother Brain,
Oh, okay.
actually. That was a good run. I remember I was only I was like slightly behind the world record at the time. I was feeling great. Zost died that run. Sweetnum died that run. I died to Mother Brain right at the end, and then Behemoth was the final. He was a bit behind me, but the GDQ staff were like, "Oh my God, what do we do? Like we're behind schedule already. Everyone's gonna die. How do we even do this?" And we're thinking to ourselves, like, this is probably the last time they're ever gonna accept this. This is ridiculous. But Behemoth ended up clutching it out. It was like an insane Mother Brain fight. Almost died numerous times. So that was a fun one.
If you just
And
die, is it
then
like you can't continue the run? Or
yeah, you go. We don't save. If saving takes
ah,
way too long, there's nowhere to save.
I see.
Um, yeah, so it brings you all the way back to the start when you land on the planet. So yeah, then the next year, 2017, a year after that race, it was low percent ice.
Mm.
Low percent ice is even more difficult of a Fantoon fight, and that's when I died to Fantoon again. So I died to Fantoon twice there. It was brutal. So that was myself, Zost, and Overfiend. I think I want to say Zost was the only one that finished. I think Overfiend died as well. So, my track record up until this point was like, man, this guy just dies. Um, and it's always a little bit disappointing, but it was still fun experiences. And yeah, so after that, it was HRDQ. I believe that was hurricane relief on that one. It was an online event to where I did a 100% map completion race against a runner named Wild Anaconda. That was a lot of fun. Kind of a wacky category, but yeah, it was a good time. And then this was kind of when around this time is when I started delving more into like the entertainment aspect of things. I had joined like an esports org at this time as well,
Hmm. Which
which
one?
no longer exists. It was called Allegiance. They were owned
Oh,
by, I don't want to get it wrong, so I won't say, but like a large org, and then
got it.
there were some internal things that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of when esports was kind of teetering out at the top, and then kind of, there's a lot of money involved.
Yeah, I remember like
Um,
was NRG, CLG, Panda, and all of them are gone now. At least there's speedrunning
yeah,
things. It's
yeah,
kind of
I can't
crazy.
imagine that CLG still. There's still some. I think TSM has a couple speedrunners, or mainly entertainers, is what they
Mm-hmm.
are. They'll have
Yeah,
streamers
of
as
course.
like the entertainers,
Like
but
content focused speedrunners.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. But speedrunning, yeah, there's no money in that, and
No, of
if you want
course.
to continue an esports org, you need money. So, but yes, I had joined an org at that point. Then I did a solo 100% map completion race or run, sorry, at the so the next year. So it's 2018
Mm-hmm.
SGDQ, and that was received well, and that's when I realized I had only done races up until this point. This was my first solo run, and it was so much. It was received so much better than the races because I could talk, I could have fun, I could express my personality, and not worry about trying to beat someone. And like races in terms of like trying to grow, like people will ask me, oh, do these events will this grow my channel if I join a GDQ? Or and I always tell them the same thing. If it's a race, no, nothing, probably not. If it's a solo run to where you can speak, um show people your personality, have fun, and it'll be less serious, then yes, it will more than likely grow your channel. So yeah, this was like the first run tour. It made me realize that as much as I love doing races and they're fun, in terms of like if I am trying to grow my channel or my brand or whatever and just be entertaining, solo races are certainly the way to go. Or solo runs, sorry, no races. But anyways, at this point, I think it was whenever TwitchCon is held. It was held in San Jose in 2018. I can't remember what time of year. It's they did something called GDQX at the TwitchCon in San Jose, and Andy and I did a Super Metroid: A Link to the Past combo randomizer, and that was fairly well received. People really liked that. It's funny, at GDQ just a week ago or 2 weeks ago, whatever it is now, a week ago, people would still come up to us and be like, "Oh my god, Andy Oates, I love your run. Like your run is why I got into randomizers." It's like, wow, so many people told us that at this last event. So it's funny how influential that run at GDQX was to like people getting into the space and also diving into randomizers and stuff.
And that's interesting because that's a like not as popular event.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, but the run was so well received. I'm surprised people still talk about it. So
I mean, you have two great randomizers merge. It kind of fits all very nicely. So,
Yeah, and like I said, most people know about A Link to the Past randomizers. It's extremely popular, the most ran randomizer, and to like link together Super Metroid into that, it kind of opened up the space even more because they're like, oh, Super Metroid is a cool randomizer as well, so kind of conjoined two worlds. So, and then in between that time, that's kind of like the ROM hack stuff, and then Super Metroid Impossible was what I ran in AGDQ 2020, like a month or two before the pandemic, which everyone got super sick.
Mm-hmm.
I was super sick at the end. I'm not saying it was COVID, but I look back on
Mm-hmm.
those times and I'm like, huh, maybe GDQ, AGDQ 2020, we were all patient zero here. Who knows? Like it was a
Let's
cesspool of
let's not
virus in that one.
let's not give them a bad reputation. I mean, it was probably just the flu.
Yeah,
It
it was
was
bad. Like I remember feeling nasty, but yeah, and everyone was sick. It was just terrible. But
Yeah, I definitely
um,
got sick after that event, which sucked because 2 days after that event ended was my 21st birthday.
oh no, that's terrible. What a
I made
terrible
it
way to.
work.
Yeah. Um, and then yeah, so then there was like another online event. This is when they went online.
Oh, before we get in, was that your first finale, like at a main event?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So it was a finale for me, and I had like commentated some finales because SM has been the finale a few times.
Hmm.
Um, but this was like my first actual run, and like I said, it was incredibly well received. So I'm
Oh yeah,
grateful
I
for that.
remember seeing it. Because I'm always there for the finales.
Yeah, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Very packed in there.
Yeah, it was a good time. It's definitely something I look back on with the most, the fondest of memories is that run.
Honestly, it might be one of the
Um,
biggest crowds ever because that was the last event pre-pandemic. So
yeah, it was, yeah. Um, and unfortunately, since then it's been a little bit lower, which I understandable. Like, things change as well, but yeah, um,
we're building it back. We'll get there.
it is. The last event was great. The last event I actually had a lot of fun. So,
Hmm.
um, and then after that, it was online. Did a 100% race with Zenny Behemoth, and I can't remember the outcome of that. I think we all did just fine, but this is when like Zenny and Behemoth they kept playing after this and they grinded 100%. I think Zenny grinded it for like 3 years, just nonstop. He lowered the record by a ton. Um, so yeah, that's kind of I think how it got started because I think he was playing 100% before the race in 2021, and it was just less than a year ago he got done with his record in that. So it's kind of wild how much he put into that. Yeah. So he got his record in March of 2024. So 10 months ago. So he grinded that to the ground. Um, but yeah, and then they had live events again, and I believe Kaizo was that in so it was SGDQ. That might have been Minneapolis.
Hmm. The first live event back would have been 2022 summer.
So yeah, I think that was Minneapolis, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So I went to that. I did the Kaizo SM. It went well. It was a fun run, and obviously not as popular as the Impossible, but like you said, it was the first event back, so it was interesting to see how it'd be
Yeah,
received. But
you can have
yeah,
a lot of people in the crowds. The chairs were all social distanced. Like,
yep. We
it,
still had to wear masks and
oh yeah,
stuff,
it
and
was
yeah,
it was nice to be back, but yeah, it definitely wasn't the same. Now,
no,
I'm not saying they should have done anything differently. I'm just it was not the same.
yeah. Just looking back, yeah, it no way to compare the
COVID
end of
sucks. That's the moral of the story.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, and then after that, just SGDQ last year, so 2024, it was a race against Shiny Zenny, a real cutie, Emmett, and myself, and it was an 80% race, and that went pretty well. That was like a really decent race, actually. Nobody died. Um,
Phew.
it- yeah, exactly. So I think it was like one of the first times in a while that no one died in a Fantoon first category. So went over well. Um, and then just a week ago, a week and a day ago, well, no, it was over midnight when we got our run going. But yeah, week and a day ago, we did the map randomizer race. It was Eddie, Emmett, Andy, and myself.
And that was the
Um,
finale.
yes, and that was the finale. So yeah, definitely a long history of GDQ runs. I think out of all of us runners, Andy has like way more runs than me. Even I feel like I have a lot of runs, but yeah, Andy's done a lot of GDQ appearances. But yeah, it's been fun. That's kind of the history of GDQ events. I'll probably there was a time to where I was just kind of bored of the GDQs, but at the same time, the way I treat it now is as we all get older, um, it's fun to just be social
Mm-hmm.
again. After 2020 and until now, it was kind of even though I don't mind being alone, I still like just want to be social.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to just see friends. So I treat it as a social gathering of like-minded individuals, and it's a good time. So I'll probably start submitting some more. Maybe I would love to submit a blindfolded. I need to practice the blindfolded stuff, and I might try to submit something like that to a GDQ. That would be challenging, but I think nothing like that has been done for SM on a stage, so that would be pretty entertaining, I think. So
Oh, they definitely accept that.
yeah, I think they would.
So, as long as it's consistent enough to be
Yeah.
featured. But
Yeah.
that's like an obvious pick, I feel. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. Yeah, I never get sick of GDQ just because. Well, I have the thing where no one in the community lives anywhere near me, so it's the only time I can see people anyway.
Yeah.
That's what
So
I'm there for.
yeah.
So I get that. Um, are there any other notable events you participated in?
No.
No?
Nothing. No, just the GDQs.
Fair enough.
I don't even think they do ESA anymore, do they?
I think they do. There's just uh, their team behind the org has not been great, so I think they're trying to change things up.
Okay.
Well, I won't go into specifics, but
Got it.
I've never been to ESA or anything, so I can't really speak anyway. But
Okay.
I think they still exist. So
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was hearing some conflicting things
hmm
from people
that
about
is what
ESA,
I
but
believe.
yeah.
They just definitely need to change some staffing things, but I believe they still exist and will exist.
Internal issues. All right.
Yes, internal issues, we'll say.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, other than that, event wise, there have been like Grand Pooh Bear speedrun sessions.
Oh yeah.
Um, that's been pretty fun. It's like a Red Bull kind of stuff. So yeah, a couple of those. That's I think three of those. But yeah, other than that, yeah, nothing really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. Have there ever been any like I guess they're I'll call them like the what do we call them? The LTAs, the lifetime attacks for the game, or like you
Oh
just do.
yeah. I don't know if I've been a part of one of those. That's
I
kind
know
of tough.
that's the more new hip thing going around. I don't know if like GSA has done anything with Super Metroid or anything like that.
So that's when they like grind the game for like a certain period of time, trying to like break the
Yeah, you
record.
try to get like a PB within a day or whatever. Chase for the record type deals, but you're not like going for the record. You're just going for the best time set in the event.
Oh, set in the event.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
That'd be fun. I mean, I would love to do something like that. I know Speed Game Live.
Yeah,
Um,
speed gaming.
they have they have live events, and if there was like a Speed Game live event for like Map Rando or
Ooh,
something,
yeah.
I would jump on that right away. Like a tournament style for something like that, where it's all random and you have to like think on the fly, and there's like a bracket then and there. That would be incredibly fun. So I'm still open to any event, and obviously probably more GDQs in the future, but something like that would be really fun and interesting to me. So
Yeah. What's nice about Super Metroid is it has a lot to offer, so and people
yeah,
never really get tired of it.
yeah. It's not just like it's a run. There's other things to do in the game. So like yeah, like the map rando is especially now it's extremely popular. People have been playing them like crazy. So it's really added a new element to the game.
It's very impressive that exists at all.
Yeah. Like the devs were there, and we were talking to them at dinner and stuff, and just everything that goes into it, and the fact that it can exist, it just blows my mind. It's beyond me. I'm not knowledgeable in that, but just I have like baseline knowledge in it, and just hearing what they have to do to make that work is awesome to me. So yeah,
Yeah, there are some brainiacs out there that create some very cool things for us.
yes, very thankful for them. So
Hmm. Um, I think I'm running out of things I can think to ask. We kind of gone over everything.
yeah,
It sounds like.
certainly was a lot. Like I said before, mainly I'm sure like everyone that you've talked to has talked about burnouts or brick walling or stuff like that, and
I've certainly been there. Yes.
yeah. We've all been there, and I guess yeah, that's something we didn't talk about too much, but there's really nothing to talk about with that. It's just like anything that you do, you plateau. That's the word. You plateau.
Hmm.
And once you plateau in anything, it's like psychologically sometimes devastating, right? Like you think you've like
Yeah.
hit your peak, when in all reality, you're not even close. I guess so. If there's any word of encouragement from that discussion, is yeah, if you plateau, it's natural, and you know every great anyone in any sport or anything, um, they've all plateaued a million times. So yeah,
Fair enough. Um,
yep. It's all part of the process, and it's learning how to get past that kind of stuff is challenging for a lot of people. And if you see people running for like a good decade, I think it's safe to say that most of us have understood that plateaus and burnout exist, and um, yeah, there's definitely healthy ways to go about it. So yeah, if you are thinking about running, always remember that there's always room for growth.
mhm. Um, I guess you kind of touched on like future ideas and stuff, but just anything to look forward to in the future, short or long term.
Well, hopefully it's short term, not long term. Metroid Prime 4 is
Ah, yes, I
hopefully
see.
hopefully short term here now. Even
Hmm.
though it was talked about in 2017. Um,
Jeez.
but yeah, so we'll see. And I hope that's also like dread for me, to where I can really just enjoy the playthrough. Like I look back fondly, even though it was just 3 years ago, and it almost 3 4 years ago now. It's almost feels nostalgic, just like a good, fun new game like Dread. So I hope Metroid Prime 4 is a similar experience for me and others. And yeah, hopefully the speed run, which I'm sure I'll try it, but I just hope that it's fun. I don't think anything will compare to like Metroid Prime, but the original Metroid Prime. But if if it does, that would be incredible.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then
Other than that,
yeah.
yeah, I don't think there's really anything. I mean, there's always rumors to stay within the franchise. There's always rumors of like
Hmm.
more 2D Metroids being made or something, and that always gets me excited. But we'll see. And then for myself, in terms of speedrunning, I guess I'll just see where it takes me. I still want to have a healthy mindset when it comes to speedrunning, and I don't want to like pursue something if it's for not the right reasons. And if I'm doing it for the wrong reasons, that's when burnout and all that nasty stuff occurs. So I just want to have fun and yeah, see where the game takes me. So,
Hmm. And it sounded like maybe pick up Dread running and Hundo Super.
yep. Learn the new Dread stuff because when I stopped speedrunning Dread, they they kind of had new developments and now it's been a couple years and now there's like a lot of new stuff that I have to learn. So it'll be fun to get back into. Um, so yeah, we'll see how that goes, and then 100% whether or not I want to like push for a record in that. Like I said, Zenny really grinded that category to the ground,
Hmm.
but just like any percent, how our sum of bests are like 40 to 50 seconds away from our actual PBs, which is fairly nuts. Um, our theory tasks of the category are a minute and a half better than our PBs, and they can still be better yet with new discoveries and new tricks and everything.
Hmm.
Um, so with 100%, that category is the world record's an hour and 12 minutes. So that just opens the door for even more like pushing the category,
Hmm.
you know. Even though Zenny has grinded it and has an incredible time, just naturally, any longer category when there's like a unlimited skill ceiling will give us just a little bit more room to like push that down. So that's why it kind of intrigues me. A category like that is more about consistency. Like obviously with any percent or any category, you need to be consistent, but with 100%, you can kind of tone back the insane technical stuff and just be really clean and then you can like kind of like dial it up a little bit and that kind of just intrigues me. So 100% might be something that I would like to grind soon. So
Sounds like a natural progression after a lot of any percent grinding. Just
yeah,
more of the same game, but more to learn, more to improve.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Sounds good. How about in terms of like the content side of things? I don't know if you've tried like or what you've done in terms of just like general content stuff. Like a lot of people do, your scripted videos or whatever. But
Yeah.
have you
Um,
done much in that scene? Just more content focused, or future plans to do content focused?
yeah, in terms of like original stuff, I have scripts written out and just like anything, they just sit there and collect dust.
Mm-hmm.
For like original YouTube videos and um, like fun ideas with the game. So it's there. It's just sometimes hard to get to. Um, in terms of like other forms of content, basically, it'd be fun to delve back into the multi-game things that I did and or some of the series that I've done in the past with the ROM hacks. And the tough part about that though is once you've played almost every ROM hack, you have to wait for more hacks to be created. And I've kind of, you know, dried out that well, so to speak. So yeah, it's just kind of I'm open to anything, and the way I like to see it is, and it's kind of what I've always done is, if I'm having fun and I'm invested into something, everyone else will have fun and they'll also become invested. I see too often people will just push themselves past burnout, and I myself have done this in the past and it's just not good. But they do that. They're not in it anymore, and it becomes dull for not only the streamer but for the people watching. So form of content for me is basically I get super hyper focused on things that I'm like really into, and if that happens, good, because I'm having fun, and the people watching will also have fun alongside me.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's that. I think we've covered everything. Anything in your history that we didn't touch on that you'd like to, or feel pretty happy?
Um, I mean, there's of course things here and there. That's a pretty um quick way to condense 12 years, but there's always more, of course. But no, I think that's pretty good. Yeah, it's been a fun decade plus of what I do, and I'm very fortunate that I can do this and maintain what I have. So yeah, it's been a blast.
Not stopping anytime soon, right?
No, I mean, I no reason to. I genuinely enjoy what I do, so it helps a lot.
Hell yeah. Well, I guess we can wrap things up here. So, I guess if you want to self promote however you'd like, feel free.
Yeah. Well, I try to stream every day, but I try to stream daily. Twitch.tv/Oatsngoats, and yeah, just try to do fun stuff. Probably more speedrun stuff in the future, like you've heard here. And yeah, thank you for having me on.
No problem. Thanks for being on. And then I'll have your YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, I guess, if you decide to use it.
Okay.
It's usually what I try to link. So those are in the YouTube description if you're watching there. And yeah, I guess that's everything. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned for future episodes every Sunday, at least on YouTube. At least this one was streamed on Sunday, so it'll work out. But yeah, catch them live, watch them on the VOD. It's always good. And yeah, I guess take care. That'll be all. All right, see
Thank
ya.
you.